Hello, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I am John Clark.
And I'm Larry Rhodes, and we want you to know that if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. Right here in East Tennessee, you can find free-thinking atheists and agnostics. This is a show for them and for people committed to a life rooted in science and free of supernatural beliefs. Today's show is Blame God.
But first, we want to tell you a little bit about our sponsors. The Atheist Society of Knoxville frequently has a meetup at a bar or eatery. Tonight's meetup, as usual, is at the Barley's Tap Room Pizzeria in Old City, starting around 5:30. Look for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion standing upright on the table. And as Matt Dillahunty at Atheist Experience says, everyone is welcome to our happy hour for food, drink, and conversation. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't.
The Rationalists of East Tennessee have several monthly regular meetings. The first and third Sunday mornings of the month are usually lectures with lively roundtable discussions. The second Sunday we hold a book club discussion, and the fourth Sunday there is usually a get-together called a Reflections meeting that's usually held at someone's home.
Later in the show, we'll give you our website to visit for additional details, including times and locations.
And in the news, let's see. Today, or at least this past week, was Martin Luther King's birthday. He was an American pastor, activist, humanitarian, and leader of the African American civil rights movement. He's best known for his role in the advancement of civil rights using nonviolent civil disobedience based on his Christian beliefs. A Baptist minister, King became a civil rights activist earlier in his career. He led the 1955 Montgomery bus boycott and helped found the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in 1957. Serving as the first president, Martin Luther King led an unsuccessful struggle against segregation in Albany, Georgia in 1962, and organized nonviolent protests in Birmingham, Alabama that attracted national attention following television news coverage of the brutal police response. King had also helped to organize the 1963 March on Washington, where he delivered his I Have a Dream speech. There he established his reputation as one of the greatest orators in American history. You want to go ahead and go to Thomas Paine?
Oh, well, actually, you said something about Dr. King I wanted to kind of talk about.
Okay, go ahead.
It is attributed that his civil disobedience came from perhaps
Gandhi.
a Christian. But yeah, Gandhi was a large influence, but that never would have occurred to him without a man by the name of Bayard Rustin. And he, even more so in a way than Martin Luther King, is today's conservative's nightmare, and at the time as well. Black, gay, socialist, civil rights activists practiced and taught Gandhi's civil disobedience pretty much to Martin Luther King. Had I want to say spent maybe 6 years before the gathering at the mall in '63, and it was Rustin and A. Philip Randolph that organized that event. Rustin was the major organizer, and a lot of people don't realize, or I don't know, they don't. When you think of Martin Luther King, you're not always thinking of jobs, and you're thinking more of freedom, but it was, I mean, the actual title was, yeah, it's March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. And I just thought I'd point out that a list of many demands were made that have never been met for the most part, and we're still fighting today. And you know, some of those things are a living wage, you know, minimum wage to a living wage, not just better wage, but an actual living wage that people
and
can attain.
Even though he was Christian and Gandhi was Hindu, it shows that using the same, getting rid of their religious differences and using the same nonviolent techniques, that they were able to
Right.
promotes social justice and social change in their society. So it didn't require on any Christian values or Hindu values to do that. It was secular values being
Right,
being
and I think that's part of what led me to this. I was actually thinking of a Christopher Hitchens video that I'd seen, and he brings up Bayard Rustin as a great secularist. And you know, one of the arguments that's thrown out to us and was thrown to him all the time was, you know, what, because Christopher Hitchens wrote a book, if you don't already know, God is Not Great, with the subtitle How Religion Poisons Everything, and he means everything. That's a pretty big claim, and most of the time when you make a claim like that, you're asking to get painted in a corner somewhere. You know, you're really drawing yourself into a trap.
some fire.
And so immediately someone will, well, let's find some religious person and that does great things. And Martin Luther King, he's the best example I can think of, and that many people can think of someone who had religious motivations. And probably, I mean, Christopher Hitchens would say they're not Christian motivations because they're secular, but no doubt he had Christian motivations, and I don't think Christopher Hitchens would disagree with that, but that they weren't just Christian, they were secular values. I mean, these demands that were made at that mall had nothing to do with religion, no discrimination, none of that. So that's something that we hammer on the show a lot, and I think it's worth lingering on it for a bit. These teachings, you know, and Bayard Rustin was a Quaker who, again, I mean, probably one of the best groups of people I can think of in American and colonial history. One of the only groups, actually the only group I can think of that you probably couldn't implicate in any sort of harassment of Native Americans. I mean, some of the evils that were done to them. So, and all around just good people that are Christians, but their values are very secular when it comes to how we treat others. And they are Christian values. They're Christian values and they're secular values in an interesting way.
Well, my response to something like that is that Martin Luther King, like most Christians, are cafeteria Christians. They look at the book, they find the things that resonate with their own personalities and their own values of justice and personal freedom, and they pick those things and they go with it. And then of course they say this is Christian values because this is in the book and this is what I believe. But I mean, he could have just as easily pointed to an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. You know, he could. Right,
but he didn't. And that's a good. And that is Hitchens' response to it. That's why it poisons. Because why do you need? I mean, that's what I would say to King. That's what I would say to any of these people. Why do you need that?
You don't have to have it. You can use regular secular values. Just looking at the measure of harm being done to your fellow human beings is enough to spur you into action to do the right thing. And so he could have used secular values as easily as he could have picked the Christian values that supported his views.
At that time, I mean, every time a group of people is emancipated from whatever's hindering them from having a fair side of our culture, you want to just wipe the floor with everything. You want like no racial discrimination, no sexual discrimination. You want to go all the way. And so King, and including Bayard Rustin, these are people who wanted that the whole time. I mean, this that event in '63 was 20 years in the making, basically. I mean, and really even before that, if you look at the labor movement. So they wanted everything, but they couldn't get it. At the time, we also had anti-war protest. They didn't want it because it would alienate King from the president. Right. And this move, you already had a good friend with the president, and they wanted this to happen. And as soon as you're anti-war, you're in trouble there, at least in their situation. Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that. I'd like to mention that he actually received the Nobel Peace Prize for combating racial inequality through nonviolence in 1964. He also was killed, assassinated at the early age of 39. Yeah. If that hadn't happened, you can imagine how much of an influence he might have had in his later life and continued writing and speaking as he did. He also was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom and the Congressional Gold Medal.
And yeah, the gentleman I was referring to a second ago is the mentor that gave King this legacy of Gandhi's civil disobedience. Bayard Rustin also received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, but that was just last year in November the 20th. But anyhow, let's push on. We'll talk about Thomas Paine here.
Before we get into that, let me just mention to the audience, this is a call-in show. Viewers are welcome to call in at any time. We put up Why Blame God, but we haven't got to that yet. But if you're interested in addressing that, you can go ahead and call in. The lines are open.
Oh yeah, and actually, you want to take care of Thomas Paine real quick?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thomas Paine, you'll see 2 birthdays up there, which is kind of strange. But he was the old system. He was born in January, and in the new system, which was adopted in his lifetime, he was born February 9th. And a whole year difference, which is kind of strange. But he lived until 1809, was an English-American political activist, author, political theorist, and revolutionary. He was the author of 2 highly influential pamphlets at the start of the American Revolution. He inspired the Patriots in 1776 to declare independence from Britain. His ideas reflected Enlightenment-era rhetoric of transnational human rights, which we still support. He has been called a corset maker by trade, a journalist by profession, and a propagandist by inclination. He was born in England, in the county of Norfolk, and immigrated to the British American colonies in 1774 with the help of Benjamin Franklin, arriving just in time to participate in the American Revolution. His principal contributions were the widely read pamphlet Common Sense, and the all-time American best-selling book that advocated colonial independence from the Kingdom of Great Britain was called The American Crisis. It was a pro-revolutionary pamphlet series. Common Sense was also influential, so influential that John Adams said that without the pen of the author of Common Sense, the sword of Washington would have been raised in vain. His writings inspired and inflamed Americans all the way through the Revolutionary War, and supported their cause such that in their darkest hours they were, in fact, gained much support, mental support, emotional support from his pamphlets and his writing.
You know, that was actually fairly popular in Europe as well.
Oh, he was.
I mean, all these ideas. This is, again, anytime a group of people, this was an emancipation of the thinking world, pretty much, minus the East. So this was the Western world's emancipation, America. I mean, it really was a perfect storm that resulted in an okay government that made it this far.
Right.
And
right. Well, it is an
and it is. It's a total experiment. And what you saw when he wrote the book, I mean, they wanted it all. They wanted all the freedoms. And in fact, I think this is kind of a yearning back to our anti-tax days. We didn't pay anything. At first we were like, no, we want everything, and we didn't pay anything. And I think that's where a lot of people, like, it
was an agrarian society too. I mean, you could basically grow your own food and didn't have to worry about it.
Well, yeah, taxes would have been a lot less. Yeah, but I mean, we still didn't pay anything.
That's true.
And anyhow, yeah.
There are some quotes that from Thomas Paine. Where knowledge is a duty, ignorance is a crime. And we see this so much in America today that people are so willfully ignorant that they accept the word of their preacher or their holy man or whatever as being true and don't bother to check it.
Politician?
Right. They put down evolution. They don't even take the time to try to learn anything about it. It's just wrong. Global warming is wrong. The old age of the earth, the geological age of the earth, is wrong only because they say it's wrong, or their preacher does, or the Bible does, and they don't try to learn anything about it. They don't try to gain any knowledge of those areas of science.
That made me think of, I want to say, was it 80s, 90s, where we lost the we could have been the housing of the Large Hadron Collider, basically the next particle that's now in Geneva, Switzerland.
Yeah.
And that was due to us not getting the science budget, and it's this ignorance. I mean, if you go down the list of politicians, Washington or otherwise, it's what is it? Business and law. Business law, all the education backgrounds.
No
I mean,
scientists in office.
I wonder sometimes if you were on a science panel, like why you just wouldn't, what's the point in even explaining it? I mean, not saying that, I have every reason to believe these people are intelligent, but anytime you pitch something to them, there are more, it's more than just, it's, Neil deGrasse Tyson got on PBS Nova, or I can't remember. Maybe it's one of the amazing meetings or something. This was before atheism was getting all the new rage, and of course he shies away from that at a degree. But he would say that it was the scientists' fault for not pitching science to the politicians the right way. But I mean, it's all of our fault, you know. And on top of that, had you even told them, it would have sounded like another language. They just simply, it's a waste of time to even say it, almost. So. And it's that type of ignorance.
Right.
So.
And it's willful ignorance. So they have the information there at their fingertips. With the internet, school's always in session. You can sit down and you can learn just about anything about any field of science that there is out there, or even body of knowledge like philosophy or basically anything. There's no excuse for ignorance in this day and time. Some other quotes.
Let's get a good biblical quote here.
Well, he said, he was talking about the Bible. Thomas Paine said, "It is from the Bible that man has learned cruelty, rapine,
that old
murder.
18th century tongue,
and murder. For the belief of a cruel God makes for a cruel man." He also said the Christian religion is a parody of the worship of the sun, in which they put a man whom they call Christ in the place of the sun and pay him the same adoration which was originally paid to the sun. And we do have a call. We're going to take it.
Hello, caller. You're on the air. This is Freethought Forum. Could we have a name or nickname for you?
Yeah, caller would be fine.
Is this Forrest?
Huh?
It's Caller.
Caller?
Caller. His nickname Caller.
Oh,
we know
okay.
Caller.
Okay, what can we do for you? Do you have a comment or question?
Well, yeah, I had something I wanted to share with you, but I had a couple of corrections prior to that.
Oh, please.
Okay.
There was not a year's difference in Miss Payne's birthday.
Oh, right. He didn't. I don't think you meant that there was an actual year's difference. Yeah, no.
It was recorded in two different systems.
Oh, yeah. Counting years.
Yeah, it was just,
Bible count days.
Yeah. It's like over here in America, miles, kilometers, that's the same thing, right?
Okay.
No.
Also, I don't believe I heard mention that Thomas Paine was the father of the American Revolution, though you did give him some credit there. And I don't think I heard that Thomas Paine was a deist, which was his religion.
That's true, he was. Matter of fact, most...
Right, but I think
there were a lot of people that were deists back then, and of course he was one.
Okay. Well, anyway, I wanted to point that out. But before but your subject was why blame God, and something came up for me that was kind of revolutionary just recently. There's a movie called Compliance, and in this movie, a guy calls into a fast food restaurant and tells them he's a cop. And within a matter of a half an hour or an hour, he has these people in the fast food restaurant abusing each other, performing sexual acts on each other, and all kinds of really
This sounds like the Stanford prison experiment, kind of, where that compliance factor went haywire.
Yeah, but you're getting to authoritarianism.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The compliance factor does not go haywire, because apparently this sort of thing is in all of this. This criminal who was doing this is a true story. I recommend everybody go see it. Compliance, you can get it at your library probably.
All right.
But this is true. This is the way humans behave.
Well, right. That's what the Stanford prison experiment told us.
Actually, before the Stanford prison experiment, there was one prior to that with Dr. Milgram.
Right. We had lots of opportunities, I think. But I mean, that's the one that got on the map, you know, so to speak.
Actually, prior to that, there was one that another movie was made out of called The 10th Level that starred William Shatner.
Right. Yeah.
That was decades before.
Right. I'm not disagreeing with you there. I'm just saying if you want to say put it on the map, I think the Stanford prison experiments really caught a lot of people's attention.
Yeah.
But you were saying, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I was saying is, it appears as though there is this sort of a trend in human beings for us to follow authority figures.
That's right.
If we're making a correlation between Christianity and this movie Compliance, well, then the Bible would be the guy on the other phone, on the line, and the person who's talking to him, telling the other employees to get naked and do sexual acts, would be a minister. And as in this movie, where you have people following authority like that, you have people becoming not only the victims, but also the perpetrators.
Yes.
And you see the same thing in Christianity, where you have normally good people who would probably not kick a dog. Maybe they'd insult a cat verbally.
Right. That was Hitchens. One of his arguments was, you know, that's what it. I mean, that's part of the crux of that book. God is not great, but yeah.
So
well, it's so much a part of our makeup that we don't. I mean, even when things are real, and like this guy he wasn't bringing in anything supernatural. He was just saying, "I'm a cop." But when you bring in the supernatural, you get people to believe in all kinds of things that are invisible and as forces that drive this. Like, can you imagine the heightened emotions and physical problems that can arise when people try to do an exorcism because they believe in demons?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, I believe when you come back to Compliance, when you have a person who is in a position of authority telling you there's demons, then you have all your friends around you also believing that they're demons, and they're chanting, and then they see somebody act really weird who has a demon, and maybe you are convinced to believe in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't really think God is to blame, and I'm not really sure that Christianity is to blame.
Well,
we're so stupid.
Well, really quickly,
we don't believe in God.
Hang on. Really quickly, we haven't actually gotten to the part of the show where we put the topic in context yet.
We're still in the news.
Yeah, we wanted to get to that, but we hadn't quite got there yet.
Well, the Thomas Paine thing was what really irked me.
Right.
I wanted to mention that Compliance. Good video. Go watch it. I'll let other people comment.
Okay.
We're not through talking about him yet.
Yeah.
Too.
All right. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. One of the things I wanted to mention.
Did you have some more on Thomas Paine?
About Thomas Paine was that when he finally got around to writing his last major work, which is The Age of Reason, which basically cut Christianity a new one. He was in a cell in France, and he was waiting to be executed, and he wrote all this stuff. There's funny stories about all that. About they put an X on his door, say he was next to be executed, but when the time came, he had a cold or the flu, and they left his door open so that he could get some air. And the executioner walked by his door because he didn't see the X. But anyway, when he finished writing it, he was demonized by the Christians in America and in Europe. So much so that when he actually died and was buried, his bones were picked up and moved several times and were eventually lost. We don't know where his final resting place is. But it was animosity toward him because of his words against Christianity.
And I mean, if you were to point, and I think it's worth pointing out because, and it's always worth reminding and keeping this in mind when we're watching this show and whatnot. We're here in America where Christianity is extremely dominant, and so that's the view that's going to get that's the one that's going to be on topic. So. And it's going to be on topic in the show later on too.
Right.
And that's probably, I mean, why wouldn't he write about Christianity in that sense? And
let me end with a couple of his quotes.
Yeah, go ahead.
He's the one who said, "These are the times that try men's souls." You may think it was in the Bible or came from Shakespeare, but no, it was Thomas Paine. And also he said, "There must be trouble. If there must be trouble, let it be in my day, that my child may have peace." He was, again, trying to say that we need to fight this war so that our children can know lasting peace.
Well, let's try to put the point of today's show in context.
Right.
And a question that an atheist will receive, and I think a lot of believers, religious believers, when they're having doubting times, and someone like my grandmother might say being tempted and whatnot, the faith goes up and down. So I found that, because my focus right now is answering the criticism of perhaps a religious person. And they're like, why do you blame God? Well, I don't. And so now I want to know where this idea comes from. And I mean, not all rationalists watching the show are going to see this perspective. Not all atheists, not all Christians, but I think some of us will. And when we're talking about blame, you got to realize there are a lot of different perspectives on this matter. So when I hear this, it's from someone, I think, who has talked to an atheist, an agnostic, somebody who's been doubting, and they are blaming God. And I think it's rarely the, hey, I've thought about it, I'm an atheist. I think it's more of the person that's doubting or might not quite want to call themselves an atheist or whatnot. But you pray, and in America you pray for your team to win the football game. You pray for God to bless your breakfast when, by all means, if there's a God, he or she or it has blessed basically all my meals every day, because my meals are enormous compared to those of other people in the world. So now I'm not saying people don't pray for things that are important. Clearly do, but the point being is when you're a child and you're praying for it's childish things that you hear, and you're being told to pray for people that are sick and that, but maybe you don't get it. You're kind of immature, and then you pray for something you need and it doesn't show up. And we have a caller. I want you to know we're going to get right to you, but that's when I think some people do get mad at God, and I say that because they believe in God at the time. And I think a lot of Christians, a lot of religious people relate to this. Maybe there was a time where you were upset at God.
No, when I talk about blaming God, I'm talking about like in the Bible.
Right, we're going to get to it. But what I want to do is now I want to open the context, and I think people, by now you'll be able to see there are probably multiple perspectives on this. So let's go to the caller, see what the caller has to say. Hello, caller. This is Freethought Forum. You're on the air. Could we have a nickname for you?
Yeah, it's Charles.
Charles? I think you said Charles. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Central Illinois.
And what kind?
Before.
Cool. What kind of question or comment do you have for us today?
The why blame God business.
Okay.
The reason why a significant portion of the Christian society brings that up to people that are self-declared atheists is that's what they have been taught in church and in their social groups surrounding the church.
Right. I agree. I mean, that's the context. I want to point out that is the context that I'm talking about for the show. I think most people will see. I think there are others, but please go on, Charles.
There's also a factor that when bad things happen that doesn't seem to make any kind of sense, people will personalize things. Like if you ever stubbed your toe or bumped your head up against a door or something like that, and how you anthropomorphize things. Mm-hmm. That also plays a part in it.
You get mad at yourself. You get mad at.
Look for reasons.
You might get mad at whoever put the door there, or or the roller skate on the floor at home. Yeah.
But when really bad things happen, like a loved one dies, or you get in a car accident that debilitates you, something like that, you look for reasons and try to place blame, and that's when it gets really bad.
Yeah.
Exactly. So a lot of this why blame God is also because we have only one viewpoint, and that's our own. Well, and the way we were raised, all the information that flows to us when we're little toddling kids up to the point of time of whatever happens will sink in and be part of us. And so if you're raised in a predominantly theist society, the concept of God monkeying with you is one of the predominant memes, as Richard Dawkins would say.
And it's the tendency of people to blame themselves and blaming the victim, basically, when something bad happens to you. Well, I must be a bad Christian. I must not have enough faith. You got a double dose. You get the actual pain that you're incurred in the accident or loss, and then you come down on yourself again with all this guilt that you place on your own head.
Yes.
Yeah.
So our society has been dominated by these concepts and ideas for
Well, for a long
Just over
time.
yeah.
I mean, we're talking about the book of Job was partially there I mean, there's so many stories that rationalize this mindset.
Yeah. Well, it's been going on within the Judeo-Christian society for like 27 centuries, and it's been going on among us Christians for over 2,000, building on the earlier Judaic system of thought.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
I'll let you go. I'm going to go see how cold it's going to be tomorrow.
Okay. Well, thank you for
Catch you
calling,
later.
and we'll be here every week. You can call back in anytime you like. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And since it's halfway through the show, I think we should
let's
take
do
our
the
break
break.
now.
Go ahead.
In case you're just tuning in, excuse me, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. Freethought Forum is funded jointly by them and by individual contributions. Shows are live most every Tuesday from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern on this community access television, which is Channel 12 Comcast or Channel 6, forget the other one, depending on your cable network. Tell your out-of-town friends that they can see us streaming online at ctvknox.org.
You can go ahead and knock it all out.
Okay.
I'm long-winded today anyhow.
This is the call-in show, and we're live today, January 21st, 2014. And viewers can call in now on the number in the show with a short comment or question. Call in now while we take a short informative break. Sam, would you run the videos, please?
Laughable? Do you prefer the scientific method over supernatural beliefs? Are you concerned about religious leaders and organizations imposing their values and rules on your body, your family, and the rest of our society? Well, take comfort in the fact that you're not alone. The Rationalists of East Tennessee meets weekly for fellowship and provides a forum for people who support skeptical thinking and rational discussion of these and other issues. To find out more information or to find out about our next meeting, visit us on the web at www.rationalist.org. If you live in or around the Knoxville area and are questioning your religious beliefs or simply believe in one less God than everyone else, well, you're not alone. The Atheist Society of Knoxville is a fun and friendly group of people just like you that meets twice a week at a bar or restaurant. We meet every Tuesday night following the show at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria for happy hour. You'll find our group either inside or on the patio. Look for Richard Dawkins' silver-jacketed book, The God Delusion, standing upright on the table. On Fridays, we meet at Agave Azul or the Beard and Beer Market. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't. We all question what we believe at one point in our lives. If this is the time for you, come join us for food, drink, conversation, and fun.
Okay.
And we're back. All right, caller. We just had a caller and we lost you. So if you've got a moment and you're wondering what happened, just call us right back. I want to pick up right where Charles left off there, talking about where this comes from. And this is true for me, and this might be true for other people, both Christians and atheists or other religions. You had a trying time in your faith, and the faith wasn't really going away. The faith was there. In fact, I think this is where a lot of people discover faith, because the prayers aren't coming true, or at least what you're wanting, you're not getting. And you're going to have to struggle with those ideas. And what's going to happen is that's when you learn about your own faith. But we got a caller just called back, so we're going to go straight to that. Hello, caller. You're on the air. This is Freethought Forum. Can we have a name or nickname for you?
And we lost him again.
Lost him again.
Would you tell her screen?
So anyhow, what I was saying was, so it doesn't seem like the prayer's working. In other words, the experimental stage of this religion, this relationship you have with God, or try it again.
Welcome,
hello, caller.
No. Well, sorry about that, caller. Please keep trying.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to the topic then.
Sure.
Yeah, so basically this experimental stage is going away, and this is where faith comes in. This is where faith is being tested, and you could view this from both the non-belief perspective, the belief perspective. I think we could all agree that this is where I don't need the evidence anymore if I want to keep believing. I'm just going to believe.
Well, there's a Bible stanza. I mean, it says Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that God causes all things to work together for the good of those who love God, and to those who are called according to His purpose." So right there, it's taking credit for everything good and bad. All things.
Well, right. And so, how do you
together for
know? How do you know whether the communication line is broke or not? Can you tell them? Hang on. Or,
Ready to try it? Okay. Welcome, caller. You're on the air. May we have a name or a nickname, please?
just a moment, caller. We're going to turn your volume up. Could you speak a little louder?
My name's Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Welcome to the show. You have a comment or question?
Well, you know, I respect everything you guys are doing. I really do. I respect a different point of view. You know, everything you guys do is good.
Can you speak up a little bit? Your voice is kind of low.
Oh, is it? I'm sorry.
There you go.
But, you know, I see your background, and, you know, how can you explain anything? You know, how can you explain? I mean,
If you don't mind.
Okay, I'm kind of sounding stupid right now.
No, that's okay, Matt. I think what you're pointing out, though, is this nice astronomy picture back here. I think that's the Helix Nebula, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it's not. No.
No?
But anyway, you're talking about everything that's around us, including space and stars.
Well,
right?
yeah. What do you? Try it again. Give it another go.
Okay. All right. You guys are atheism. I understand it. You got your own set of beliefs. You know, I'm a Catholic. I got.
Well, I don't want you to. If you don't mind, Matt, I don't want you to group atheism as a group of people with a set of beliefs.
It's just an answer to one question.
Right, because there are Buddhists. There are a variety of people who don't believe in a god or gods. Some of them still believe in supernatural things. Others don't. We are atheists for one reason only, and that's because we lack a belief in God or gods.
But there are all kinds of different beliefs that we can have.
I'm not trying to call here and degrade.
No. It's a common misunderstanding. I just thought I'd throw it out there. But please go on.
Well, it's kind of like politics. You know, you've got your Republicans, you got your Democrats, and I'm watching this show, and I kind of watch it every Tuesday, and I'm kind of the antithesis of you guys.
Well, that's great.
I'm a Catholic, you know.
Okay.
But I'm not a fully believing Catholic, but at the same time, I still see, you know, a good in your all's view.
Right.
And I still see good in my view.
Right. Yeah, we no doubt share a lot.
I mean, how can we come to middle ground here, you know, because there is a middle ground.
Oh, yeah.
Religion. And
I think we all share a good bit of humanism.
I agree, actually, and I think we're standing on that middle ground. I think it's called America, or USA.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
America is a greedy society.
Well, but if you compare it, what we have is we have a secular constitution. We have a place where fairness is held pretty high up there, despite
expected.
It's actually pretty nice compared to a lot of the world. So.
Oh yeah.
So that's what I meant. We are the melting pot.
We have to be a beacon. Whether we like it or not,
right.
We've created ourselves as a country to be a beacon for the betterment of the world right now. You got to admit that. We are the fucking world police.
Let's be careful with the language, please.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right.
I'm so sorry. I really am. I'm so sorry.
You know what?
Well,
it happens. But I want to. You're talking about this middle ground. Maybe you could be more specific.
Well, I'd like to say something about the middle ground.
Well, I think I want to get, before we put a thought out to him, I want to get...
No, I'd like to hear the guy on the left.
Oh, go ahead,
I'd like
Larry.
to
Yeah,
hear
sorry.
him.
All right, what I would say is that you have the right to believe the way you do. We have the right to believe the way we do.
Right.
The middle ground, and we don't have a problem with people's beliefs. We really don't. They can believe whatever they want to. When we have a problem is when somebody tries to take action, political action to send their, like, religious beliefs into the public square. Like, let's take Catholicism, since you're a Catholic. When they try to outlaw the use of condoms and prophylactics in the general public, even to the people who don't believe the way that they do, then we got a problem.
That's a problem, yeah. That's
Or
a good
put-
point.
I mean, that's just, I guarantee you, that, I mean, 80%, 85 to 90% of the Catholics do not agree with the prophylactic device.
Well, I agree, but still,
that's an old school deal.
Right,
Trust me.
right.
But it's still going on.
Right, and you can't deny that they use quite a bit of funds to fund these things across the country.
Not
it has
only
to
across
do with
the country, but across the world.
across
Look at the problems that it's causing in AIDS-ridden Africa.
Yeah, exactly.
Is America a majority Catholic society?
We're not talking
not?
about whether it's a majority or not. In America,
That
one
has
of the
nothing to do
things,
with it.
yeah, one of the things that makes America great is that you can express yourself as long as you don't take away the rights of someone else to a degree.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's just one person. We still hold that to be true. So that's when we have a problem, when one group attempts to do that. And so I think Larry's made a good point here. We're putting Catholicism on the line here. What's your response?
Which group is trying to do that to you? I mean, which
Catholics.
group is
Catholics.
trying?
Catholics. We just
Catholics?
we
Generally.
Could you repeat
Really?
our?
Did you know the Pope has said in North Africa, he went on there over on a trip and put down the use of condoms, saying that it actually made the spread of AIDS worse.
How about all the good that Catholics have done in
Hang on a
Africa?
second. Hang on. Please.
Yeah.
How about all the good how about
You've done great things.
Ignore the BS. How about ignore the BS? You know, I know the Catholicism has a lot of
Matt,
BS.
lower your voice. Lower your voice. Okay, you're getting static. You're getting static in the room here.
Yes, sir. I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
No, you don't.
But just
Okay, we grant you the good things you've done. I mean, you heard me at the beginning of the show, right?
Ignore
Matt,
the BS of the Catholic Church and get down
Matt,
to
lower
the
your voice, please.
basic facts
Matt.
of it, okay?
Yeah.
Matt,
The basic facts
Matt,
of the
we're going to have to
Catholic
mute
Church.
you, Matt, if you don't lower your voice.
Okay.
Matt, you don't have to say it anymore. I agree with you. You've done good things. I said this at the beginning of the show. Now let's talk about what I said about America, which is that we protect these people despite that it's just one person or 10 people.
Wait, who is we protect these people?
Americans.
What does that
The
mean?
American
That
Constitution.
means, yeah, the Constitution, you know, freedom of speech, as long as you're not violating someone else's rights.
But wasn't the Constitution founded on religion?
No.
If you look back on it?
No.
Was it not?
No. Well, let me ask
Gotta
you,
look at it.
let's ask
You might
Matt.
have to look at it a little bit deeper.
Actually, Matt, what I would like you to do is explain to me how the Constitution was made. You've got a captive
how much time do we
audience.
have?
Well, I've got about 5 minutes for you, and you can
Well,
do it.
it's gonna take a lot longer, but I'll go.
Matt,
into it.
surely someone that knows as much as you do about it could do like a real quickie for me.
No, sir. I'm not trying to talk like I know more than you guys. 'Cause I
Well
don't.
then,
I'm
let
just
me
the same as
tell
you
you how
guys.
the Constitution
We're just
came about.
different.
Can I tell you how it came about?
Yes, sir. You can.
From earlier in the show, is a perfect storm of events across the world. Okay, this was from the beginning of Freethought to the eruption of revolutionary enlightenment as the country was developing, and America got caught up into this storm. You had a new continent discovered. You had people that wanted to leave everywhere in the world. Everywhere.
Because of religious persecution.
Because of religious persecution. Now, granted, it was a different type, similar but different. We're talking about Roman Catholics. We're talking about the Anglican Church. And you had a variety of people, religious motivations, entrepreneurship, They wanted to escape taxes and the burdens, and you had a whole new land to go to. And when they got over here, they did not want to form a country at all. They had no idea how to, and it took hundreds of years, genocide, ridiculous amounts
Genocide?
Of
the
the
genocide
Indians.
of the Native Americans.
Yeah.
You're all aware that that happened.
Yes.
Okay.
But
And
you're blaming. All right.
well, I'm not blaming it on anyone. I haven't said it. I'm just telling you that these events occurred, and out of the
yeah.
needs,
I agree.
out of the needs of all these people, we ended up with 13 colonies. We ended up that didn't want to be taxed, that wanted to stay under the guidance of Great Britain, but didn't want Big Brother over their back all the time. And through a perfect storm, through relations with the French, I mean, it's like you said before. At this point, you could spend a semester or two on it easily.
But one of the things they didn't want was they didn't want a king and they didn't want a pope.
Right. And what happened is they ended up being forced into a revolution. They ended up hastily writing a constitution, which failed immediately. And they had to write another one. And then it failed, and we needed Bill of Rights. And it failed, and we added amendments. I mean, this just kept going and going and going. I want you to tell me where religion fit in there.
Well, religion fit in there because what we were taught. I ain't saying it's right. I'm just saying what we were taught
Who?
was they came here for religious freedom, okay? And good or bad, you know, it didn't turn out so bad because we're the United States of America, you know? It didn't turn out that bad.
I agree with you that it didn't turn out that bad, but where I disagree with you, Matt,
Matt,
Let him talk
Matt,
first.
speak, please. I beg you.
Okay,
Let me speak.
go
I ain't
ahead.
gonna yell. I'm looking at your show. It says atheism. Why blame God? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not blaming God. I'm half you guys, and I'm half what I was raised as. I'm just trying to find a middle ground. Hoping there is a middle ground.
You found it.
You know, I do. I believe in your all's side, but I still, when I lay down to sleep at night, I still think there's got to be something else. There's got to be something else.
All right, Matt, and I agree with you. You know, we can have this conversation. In fact, I'd invite you to come down to our table, and we could have it every week.
Are you living in Knoxville?
If you're local, are you local?
Yeah, I live in West Knoxville.
Well, then come on down. We're having our meetup tonight and every Tuesday night.
I mean,
right after the
obviously,
show.
this conversation could. We've had people come down who've heard us on television.
They come
and
every week.
They've spent 6 months with us, and you know, like it or not, whatever, they probably enjoyed their time. Most
Well,
of
not
it.
only that, but you get to meet, there's like 35 of us that come down here. The whole club has 450 members. The 30
Let me just say, if I showed any disrespect to you guys, I apologize.
No,
It's all right.
It's a passion, you know.
Sure.
You guys got passion, I got passion.
You're right. That's exactly what it is. I agree.
So I appreciate it, guys. So.
Okay.
All right, Matt. If there's nothing else, thanks for calling.
Yeah, and
and
feel
we
free to
hope
call
that you.
anytime.
Yeah, we hope that you call in again.
Oh yeah, I call in every Tuesday, man. That's
Oh,
fine.
okay.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Sounds real good. Thank
That'd
you.
be good. Well, that was. I enjoyed that call quite a bit.
Yeah.
It does get passionate here in the Freethought forum, but the best part about it is it's Freethought. We just talk about it anyhow.
Let me talk a little bit about my view on the blame God and why I was really putting this up as much as anybody.
Yeah.
Is that preachers blame God or credit God. Think about the many times that Pat Robertson has said that God brought this storm or that earthquake or whatever natural event to a certain people because of the homosexuality or they made a deal with the devil or whatever. Preachers say it all the time, and they blame God for these things, but they really blame the people for not doing what God, therefore, I mean, that is Pat Robertson, wants. They're all the way down through history, preachers have said that you know, if something bad happened, that's God doing it. You didn't do what God said, therefore God is punishing you. And if you think all the way back into the Bible, how often that has happened. There have been plagues, earthquakes, floods, tsunamis, all of this, and immediately there was some preacher or holy man or biblical writer willing to jump up and say, see, God did this because you took a census, or you didn't obey God. And generally it's basically Pat Robertson 2,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago saying, 2,500, saying, see, you didn't do what I mean, God wanted you to do. So, you know, you're being punished by God.
Well, right. Now, obviously, I mean, Matt here probably would have had a good retort for you, which is something along the lines, well, people don't all think like Pat Robertson. But I mean, obviously, they're well-funded and they're out there and they do.
I've got several other examples.
I think
here.
what I mean, I agree. I think, but that's a perspective that I think we beat down a lot on the show.
We did.
And one thing that I wanted to talk about that I don't think we've quite gotten to is that atheists don't blame God.
No.
And
well, you couldn't blame somebody that's not real.
But we need to understand where the idea comes from. And I think you're right. When you say to your congregation that God is responsible for everything, at that point, you can't have one without the other anymore. Mm. And when a religious person, I should say someone who believes in a God and this sort of thing, talks to someone who doesn't, they tend to think, well, surely this person thinks about the same way I do. They're mad at God. Well, I'll agree with you that I used to be, but then I stopped believing that God existed. And that did wonders for being mad at God. It basically eradicated that idea from my mind. So there's no more anger, because you can't be mad at God anymore. You can still be frustrated, and I was. And I think some of us are at times, when you see things happen in the world, bad things to good people and vice versa, good things to bad people. But at least in the context of free thought and in a rational, naturalistic viewpoint, I've found peace that way. And so that's what I really wanted. I thought, why blame God? How can I?
Right.
And when you understand the world on these terms, I think this is where you'll hear, you know, Dawkins or Tyson, Neil deGrasse Tyson saying, you know, this is why the universe is beautiful. This is why this way of thinking, and this is how a religious person can now, at least I hope after hearing that, see that it's not all woe. It's not like, oh, there's no heaven anymore. I can just go do whatever I want. You know, this is the one life you get, probably, in my opinion.
But you've got to recognize that it's the one life everybody else gets.
Right.
And you don't want to do harm to their lives. And that's all the reason you need, not to hurt your fellow man. Exactly.
And Matt, if you're still watching, that's one thing that I guess if we had much more time to talk about, that's what I would like to talk to him about.
Humanism.
And anyone at home who was sitting there going, yeah, Matt, let them have it. You as well. I'd like to get all of you down there and talk to you about this, not so that I can persuade you or you can persuade me, but so that we can understand each other better and we can stop saying silly stuff like why blame God to an atheist.
We've got another call.
Yep.
So we'll say welcome to the Freethought Forum. You're on the air. Can we have a name or nickname, please?
My name is Mary.
Can you speak up a little bit? We can hardly hear you.
My name is Mary.
Mary.
There we go. Mary.
Mary.
You're on the air. What can we do for you?
Well, I would just like to make a comment. The topic is atheism. Why blame God?
Right.
Oh, it doesn't quite resonate, does it? Makes sense.
Would you like a quick context for the comment, Mary?
What I would like to say, and I'm getting some type of feedback. I'm not sure what it is.
Okay.
But I think so many times we blame God because we don't really understand the natural occurrences in the universe.
Right,
We don't
yeah.
know why they happen. We don't understand natural things that happen
Right.
and that are going to happen in the world, just as a process of nature from year to year to year.
Yeah.
And I think some people believe that God is responsible for these things. They, as you said a minute ago, you said that they charge God with good things.
Well, they are being constantly told by the religious leaders that everything is God's will.
They charge God with bad things.
Yeah. I think they get caught up in the idea, and then I think it is typically someone who does believe in God who will also be the same person that gets angry at God.
We will. We don't get angry at God.
That's part of the point of the show. I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong. I understand it. I've been there myself. But yeah, I mean, you don't understand what's going on around you. It's frustrating.
It's frustrating.
Yeah.
But it takes the ability to put a lot of things together, to study history, to study science, and I mean a lot of good science study.
Right. But the information is at our
Put
fingertips.
all of these things together to really understand a little bit about what's happening around us.
Do you think it's worth the effort?
Pardon me?
Do you think that it's worth the effort of doing that people should do that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
I think it's worth the effort to do it, because I think you get a peace in your life that you can never have if you don't go through the process. Many of us who don't go through the process of trying to understand what is going on around us and why.
Right. I agree.
A lot of
Yeah.
it we don't understand.
And it also helps you. Yeah. Or go ahead. Go ahead.
But if you have a broad knowledge of life, if you have a broad knowledge of science, if you have a broad knowledge of history, of old history, if you can go back and go back way back in world history and then just go step by step, what happened here, who was important here, and it's amazing how all the pieces begin to fall together.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
It's not something you can do like in a semester or a year, but it takes a lot of time to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like we said earlier in the show that Thomas Paine, one of his quotes was, "Where knowledge is a duty, ignorance is a crime." And so many people will not take the time or spend the energy to learn anything with all of that information at their fingertips nowadays.
It's at your fingertips. All you have to do is to be willing to study it. And all of the questions will begin, because when I was a little teenager, I used to doubt a whole lot of things. And it took a long time for me to be able to begin to put the pieces together. And there was a doctor out at Oak Ridge named Dr. William Pollard that really, he was a nuclear physicist that really began to put things together. I was able to put some of the things he was teaching and some of the things that he mentioned, and it began to put some things together for me.
Well,
but it's not something you can just talk about.
Right.
You've got to get in there and dig it out.
That's right.
Well, listen, Mary,
I think that's when you really begin to understand these things.
We're coming up on, we just got about a minute left, so we're going to have to let you go and do our closing comments.
Well,
but we
thank
sure
you for calling in.
Yeah, we sure do appreciate your call, Mary.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I always like to say that your education didn't end with the last day of school.
And I'll say to add, yeah, exactly. And I'll add to Mary really quickly. It helps you when you realize that there are things that you may never know. But if you're ever going to know it, you're going to have to learn it. Yeah.
Well, this has been Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I'm Larry Rhodes.
And I'm John Clark. It's time to wrap things up. Get out your pen and paper.
Please send us feedback. Leave a voicemail at the number on the screen, 272-9060. Or you can write us at freethoughtforum@yahoo.com.
That number, not that number.
We'd like to thank all our viewers and send our thanks to Sam and Jonas for technical support and the staff of ctvknox.org. remember, if you don't believe in God, you're not alone.